What's up, everybody? Blake the Scholar of Magic here, and today we're going to be comparing two decks that I've put together in the last week or so, and just kind of get the vibes for the primary differences in the game plans and how they can switch drastically depending on like what your preference is, or maybe your play pattern is, or how they develop. So I thought this was a really good kind of example, and we can go over some card hands too as well. So the commander is Illuna, Apex of Wishes, and it is a Mutate commander. And what's kind of amazing about this commander is that it offers something unique where it will give you that option to get a lot of value by having a board that lets you mutate onto things in general. That's kind of the criteria, right? Where if you don't have anything or creatures to mutate onto, you can't really you won't be able to take advantage of the mutate, and you definitely want to be mutating. So what is mutate? Well, mutating it has to be done onto a non-human creature. So that's definitely a criteria, and that kind of early on that was kind of a big deterrent for me for playing Aragorn as my commander, because I really do feel that Aragorn has like the best kind of value, kind of synergy with like shapeshifters, for instance. And if you could like have mutate commanders, like for instance Ivy, you in like the Vesuvian Duplimancy, where you're creating copies and copies. Obviously, having multiple copies of Aragorn is just like GG, right? But unfortunately, I couldn't make Aragorn to a mutate commander because it was really holding me back was I could not mutate onto Aragorn, who is a human. So that was always like a big impediment for that. So we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. We found that the best 5-color commander, I believe in my eyes, is Omnath Locus of All, if you want to be 5-color. But if you just want to mutate commander, like a card that can actually mutate, I think Illuna, because it does offer that mutate from the commander command zone, other than like an Omnath Locus All, which does not mutate, is your best option for now, I believe. I mean, you have like Otrimi, which is pretty cool to like return value permanence, but you'll see why Illuna is just kind of exceptional. So let's kind of get into the card here. This is the alternate art, which is also $55, guys, from Ikoria. I mean, isn't Ikoria the best? It simply is the best. Has these really cool Godzilla collectible cards, so you can get a Ghidorah, King of Cosmos. As the alternate art, of course, I just have like a pre-release regular Illuna. But eventually we'll definitely get the super sick art. Eventually, maybe for like a birthday present or something, or we just proxy it. I mean, whatever happens, eventually we'll get the card, right? We'll get it. But let's just get into this. On face value, it's a 6/6 flyer for red, blue, green, and 2. So that's fine. It's a beast elemental dinosaur. Okay. Really, the major pull here is that mutate cost, which is an additional generic mana. So it's 3 generic, red or green, and then 2 blue. It's a flying trample. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or enter your hand. So you have options here. You can either put it on the battlefield or enter your hand. Very interesting text. So let's explain mutate. It's kind of like a sandwich. That's kind of how I best explain it to you. And this version of the deck, the EDH version, is amazing if you love to mutate. Like if you just like to mutate stuff, if you want like a medium, kind of get into your medium higher stuff, it's mostly like I'd say a strong, just a good medium powered deck. This would definitely be your one. You're going to be showing off some really cool interactions. You're going to be definitely playing a lot of mechanics of Magic that are just useful to know and useful to show to other people. So, for instance, I'm going to illustrate a card that really works well with this kind of this particular commander. So let me just zoom out just slightly here. And it is the Frontline Heroism. This card is an absolute amazing card, guys. And maybe I'll just zoom in on a little bit. There we go. So, my goodness. People can't believe this card, too. They're like, what does it do? Like, what does that do? Seriously? Okay, well, what's great about it? First of all, it's going to create a token to mutate onto. That's great. So we can, have mutate because it's just going to be a one red soldier. It's not a human soldier. It's just a one red soldier. It's not considered a human, and so we can mutate on this thing. And then additionally, whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single creature you control, create a 1/1 red soldier creature token with a haste. Then copy that spell. The copy targets the token. So basically, we can go Frontline Heroism, create a token, and then when we're ready to mutate, when we have 6 available mana, we're going to mutate Illuna over the token if it's the only readily available creature on the battlefield. And then this card, Frontline Heroism, will see that. In addition, it will create another token, and a copy of Illuna will mutate onto that token. So you get 2 instances of Illuna triggering, which will bring 2 non-land permanents, or 1 non-land permanent from each trigger onto the battlefield. And that's just amazing value, guys. That's just unprecedented value, and that's just a 3-drop. And that's what's a big pull about this deck, is you're finding ways to kind of copy the triggers, the mutate triggers, so that you can have multiple instances of mutate, not just from the single creature itself that enables the mutate. What are some of the other cards that kind of enable this? Well, we're going to get into it. So another similar kind of redundancy that you have would be like the Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. So Ivy is similarly enables that. The criteria would be for Ivy is that you would have to have another creature other than Ivy that was also a non-human and Ivy on the battlefield at the same time. Then what you could do, and this is how I can illustrate this for you, you can go ahead and mutate the Illuna over, you must, to get the double trigger, over the creature other than Ivy. Ivy will see that and then will allow you to mutate a copy of Illuna once again over the Ivy as well, so you get redundant triggers. Now, how do we do this so we don't legend rule Illuna? Well, you have the option to put, when you mutate, to put over or under. So for instance, we can put Illuna over that other creature, put it over to make it a 6/6 flyer, and then we can put the Illuna under the Ivy, so that it will become a 2/1 trample, and it will not become Illuna, and you won't legend rule those out. And the Ivy will still remain as a legendary creature and be known as Ivy. So that is a really interesting kind of, pull that you can kind of utilize with the Vesuvian Duplimancy. There's some choices in this deck, for instance, that we really enjoy. One of the key cards is the Vesuvian Duplimancy for this. So let's just go back here. Now, Vesuvian Duplimancy isn't going to double our mutates, for instance, but it's gonna when we mutate, it's going to see because this just wants single target spells. Once they target another creature, it will create an additional creature that's a copy of that creature that you're targeting. So this is valuable because, say for instance, we have a Sad Robot, also known as the Simulacrum, the Solemn Simulacrum. So for instance, we have a Vesuvian Duplimancy on the battlefield, we have a Solemn Simulacrum on the battlefield, we have any of our mutate creatures, we go ahead and mutate onto the Solemn Simulacrum. Vesuvian Duplimancy is going to see that targeting of that single target, and then it's going to create another Solemn. It's going to create a copy of the Solemn. And then, for instance, that is a mutated creature now, and maybe we created a 6/6, Sawtooth Demolisher Solemn Simulacrum, which is totally possible. And then we mutate again onto that. Then we're going to create a 6/6 Solemn Simulacrum copy, and it's just like crazy. And then other things is really interesting to mutate is onto a Scute Swarm. Because, say for instance, you mutate a Sawdust Demolisher onto a Scute Swarm, it's still going to retain those characteristics of the Scute Swarm, but it's going to be a 6/6 trampler. And like I said, with the Vesuvian Duplimancy, you just keep on creating redundant copies of 6/6 scoots as the lands come in, and it's just like, oh my god, your scoots are actually like, now we're into like Craterhoof territory and we have a win con. Because that's kind of like what we're looking at. So yeah, we have some really nice win cons in here. We have some low to the ground stuff. Ragavan's a cool thing to mutate onto because it can get a little stronger as well. So I always find it kind of interesting to make these cards that are notoriously kind of weak on their own, and can like have maybe a harder time get in, but then all of a sudden we put like any of these kind of mutate cards over the top of them. For instance, let's just see. One of my favorite is a Migratory Greathorn. So there's a Migratory Greathorn. That's just, that'd be nice. You kind of make, a stronger Ragavan. They can kind of swing in there a little easier. So I kind of like that idea. And I kind of dig that. I just like the card. I play Ragavan probably over another elf too, and it's nitpicky. But the Nissa, when she procs, when you have 2 lands that come in, she's going to fetch an elemental in her elf. So we kind of want to limit our elves as much as possible. I think we still play like maybe one of the elves, maybe like an Elvish Mystic. We have like a Findhorn elf in here, one elf, because we kind of want to encourage Nissa to find like elementals, such as like a Lumra. That would be a better choice. That'd be better RNG for us. So I think Ragavan just kind of slots in. So he's one of our 1-drop choices. And then I did think we had just enough mutates in this deck. I was kind of missing out on a little bit, but really what I wanted to kind of, the big changes about this deck, and it really didn't change that much. I did take out Case of the Locked Hothouse because it was a little slower. That's just one where you saw the case after 6 lands. It was getting targeted. And I was just thinking, I just needed cards because Azusa is just a card. Like, I really thought I could get by with just like Augur of Autumns and ramming up Excavators. But those are like things that you kind of have to cast. And, it's like, it was just like, not really in my best interest to like, go out of my way to make Azusa better. So I just thinking like, well, maybe I just need to get more cards or add more lands. So I kind of just settled on adding like cards. So for instance, like Rishkar's Expertise is really good with Illuna and some of my bigger power creatures. And I'm just going to draw a bunch of cards and really help like keep Azusa going. Because these guys, like for instance, Dryad and Azusa, and Exploration, like these cards just suck up so much lands, and they just, even if you're playing off the top or playing from underneath, you still have to cast a ramming Excavator. And I'm just thinking, well, just give me more cards. I think if I just have more cards and more access to more cards, I'll have more chances to get like Azusa and get more options on the table. I just didn't really like how many cards I was getting. So, but the bigger change was I just basically took out an elf, like a Llanowar elf, and I took out a Case of Locked Hothouse. I was pretty happy with the way that we were kind of ramping with like our 3 visits and Nature's Lures. I was pretty happy in how fast it was moving along. Additionally, like Azusa was doing great, but she was gassing out in some circumstances. So I just wanted to kind of help her out a little bit. So the cards that we added that will go along really well with our 6/6 flyers, like a Rishkar's Expertise, which will just see Illuna's power and just gas us up from there. And then in addition, we have Return of the Wild Speaker, which also is just a nice one to get a nice gas up, and they're very efficient, right? So Illuna is a non-human and a 6/6, and this is at instant speed too, which is nice, and that's just a lot of cards. We can also just get a wide buff up to all our things and maybe finish off the opponent through combat damage. So overall, I'm very happy with the way the deck turned out. This is the EDH version. I think it's just complete gasoline. It's beautiful. It's just complete. I think it's just a completed deck, and I'm pretty happy with the way it kind of went. So we can kind of just maybe look at like a hand or so. This is a little slower. This one is would be an absolute Greed Lord, but unless you get 2 draws at it, right? Just kind of curious. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what that would have ended up as, but this looks a little bit more solid, like a 1-mana Accelerant, and then you're having access to like a crucible type effect. You can always like mutate onto that. Let's just see. We just draw for turn. The halfling is nice as well, you know, and kind of just rolling in here right now. Probably get the halfling going, I suppose. Don't really think it matters. Crucible is nice, you know. Now we just need like our enabler, like exploration, or this is Boseiju. Kind of a little ways off of the guy here, but probably surveil first and see what's on the top. Do we want the disciple? We'd probably trash that in favor of something else. And then for turn, we'd probably just play our little guy here and set up for our mutate. I guess we'd have... I don't think you would want to... If we play the elf, that's 2 mana available. Might be able to Boseiju something if you really wanted to, I suppose. Otherwise, you're just chilling. Analyst, huh? Oof, that is so good for Lumra as well. So I believe we'd probably be just shocking this one in right here. We definitely would have the mana available to be uncounterable too, so that's nice. So we'd attempt to go ahead and like mutate over the elf, I believe. If it was successful, we would exile until we hit a non-land permanent, so that's a land, so this is just an exile. That's a Sonic Dust Demolisher. That's not bad. That's a nice hit. See, yeah, that's why I do like the mutate. You get these really nice hits here. So that's pretty fantastic stuff. And then we just draw for our next, move on to our next turn here. Command Tower. I mean, there's so many ways you can go about it. You could really build up this graveyard a little bit better to get ready for your Illumra. And you can basically just pop this off and get ahead on lands. Probably wouldn't be the worst idea. So for instance, if I just went into like an Aftermath Analyst and just milled 3, it's not the worst. And then I just popped the Aftermath Analyst. That would return those 3 lands to the battlefield. Is there any of those are fetch lands? Let's see. No, we haven't really fetched anything yet. It's kind of sad, actually. So they would just all return. It's kind of a bummer. I was hoping to get maybe some fetch lands for Lumra, you know, because you'd want them to come on the battlefield and come back. I do think we're kind of running all the ones we want to. I do have like a lone man land here as well. We hit everything on curve. I mean, Lumra is still like a card, right? And kind of light on Mutate. The Ancient Green Warden was popping, though, when we had it. It was such a good card during one of the matches and almost got me lethal against like everybody at once. With the Avenger Zendikar on the battlefield, it was really popping off. So, there's that. So that is kind of like a look at the action there. Yeah, when you have like the Analyst and the Lumra working together, it's really good stuff. Just want to make sure if I don't see like any particular, maybe we're missing, we have Fabled Passage here somewhere as well. Surely we do. Yeah. Can always add like a Maestro's Theater, I suppose, or I think that will give us Mountain and Swamp, or Mountain and Forest. Yeah, you'd probably maybe want the Sparas, the Spara fetch one that has island, at least island and mountain, right? Yeah, there's probably some time there where we could have just like had like a Cabaret Courtyard type of turn. How do we feel about Hull? Hull is just like a nice kind of mana sink when you're getting so many lands on the battlefield. But from the game we're playing, you know, are we really gassing out enough to like have the Hull? I think these are pretty necessary, like the City of Brass and such. But you know, we're not like, it's not like we're 5 colors, are we? It's not like we're 5 colors. Maybe at least one city. And just lose like a $30 card along the way. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just lose both of these and roll the dice. It seems better to have more of these kind of fetch lands that sacrifice. We are in 3 colors. It's not that bad. Play 1 command tower seems good. Let's see. I think one's called Maestro's Theater. And maybe one is called like Spara. Must be spelling it wrong. Let's see what the Maestro Theater gets us. Yeah, that's fine. Island, swamp, or mountain. That's good. And just bear with me. I'm just going to try to find the... okay. Broker's Hideout. Yeah, that's the one. Perfect. Oh yeah, I think we're much happier now. Our Aftermath Analyst and Loomer will be much happier too. This is an interesting hand, guys. It's really fast. This is the kind of stuff we really like, is like the exploration starts where you're just basically, you know, popping off like immediately. Just have to take a little damage here, but you're just like kind of rolling. Because you could just play these. That's the verbiage, you just play. You don't, it's not put, it's play. Yeah, you can go into 3 visits, you're getting real fast. There's our mutate card. We can mutate onto this. Can go bird, go into conduit, because we 3 visited it, so this is just a land, basically. And we're just continuing to play lands with their conduit. Were any of these fetchable? No. So the conduit is actually maybe not the best here. But we could we have searched for a forest card? We just need a fetch. We need something. We need to get something in there for the exploration and conduit. I think this is still the turn, and just play this out, right? Or save this. Save the Disciple to draw like millions of cards. Little Illuna. Could do that too. Yeah, you could probably just chill. Kind of an interesting turn. Draw, Psycho Rift. So if we mutate onto this bad boy here, see what we get. Frenzy. It's kind of interesting. We'd be able to play from our top. We'd be able to play these lands. Shuffle. We could play that from our top. That seems pretty good. I mean, obviously these are great cards here, but having this on the top is the Auspicious Sterix, and kind of getting into our juice from there is pretty good. So yeah. So that's the kind of where the EDH deck landed. And now let's get into the full meme Illuna. What I call full meme Illuna. This is the other way you could go about this deck. And again, once again, we're playing the same commander here. The thing about this is it's really taking advantage of the non-land permanent that shows up. So may have seen versions of this where they'll just put like Omniscience as that hit. They'll just put one permanent card in the entire deck. And basically, once you mutate onto, like, for instance, a token, like, because there's sorceries and instants and lands that can create tokens, then all of a sudden you mutate over that specific token with Illuna, and then you're granted that amazing card like Omniscience, where everything from your hand is casted for free. Doesn't mean the game is over, but because you might gas out, you might lose, you might not have spells left over. You might just cast all your spells from hand, even though they're free. So it's not the end of the game, but it is very powerful. So that's kind of your other way of going about this. So the way I've gone about this, I think you guys will just love it, is that we'll play cards like Ulamog, the Defiler. So let me just kind of minimize this just slightly now. Just make sure that's over my head. And with Ulamog, you're going to have this card that is just a new card, and it is totally abusable by this Illuna, Apex of Wishes, because you just have to basically put in a couple hits that you want. And for instance, two of the creature hits that I have, only two of the perms I have, one is Ulamog the Defiler, and one is Jin Jitaxis, the Progress Tyrant. And I thought this was also smart because if you only have one hit in your deck, you could exile your entire deck, or most of it, before you hit that card, and then you're left with a very small library, and that can be very bad for you. So, having a couple more hits is great, and I think Ulamog is like maybe the best hit, because this thing will see itself being exiled amongst the exiled cards once Illuna is mutated onto a permanent, and it's going to see itself as one of those exiled cards, and it's going to enter as a 17/17, and that is devastating to any opponent. If this thing swings on an opponent, they're going to be toasted. They're going to lose everything. And I'll put the video in the comments of like this stuff happening. I'll probably just put the short, like a link to a short, so you can start from there and just kind of see what happens when Ulamog swings on another opponent. It's really devastating. And it is quite the interaction. And this is definitely a card I want to get. I definitely want to get this deck and paper. I think it's like kind of the way I want to see Illuna. I really enjoyed building the Mutate version that really was all about mutates and multiple mutate creatures, but this is something else, guys. This is really something to behold. So there is Ulamog the Defiler. When you cast this, it's 10 cost. When you cast a spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. We really probably won't be casting it. We could, though, with an Omniscience. Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. So, we're going to put 10 +1/+1 counters on this when it comes from exile, and then we're going to swing, and they're going to have to sacrifice. The Annihilator means to sacrifice permanents, so that's the only criteria, is we just swing this towards an opponent and they have to sacrifice 10 of their things. So that is just crazy stuff, guys. So I mean, there's Ulamog the Defiler. What a bad mofo. So that's one of our hits that we're gonna get. And then Jin Jitaxis is my other cool one that I got, and I feel like it's just cool. Like, we're playing a lot of instants or sorceries. This like impacts our opponents too. Like, to get through to the Jinn, they have to, either like Atawara it or, play enchantment removal. And, this thing is just going to like counter their very first artifact, instant or sorceress spell. They play every turn. So it's like really nasty, taxing. And it just works for us. It's just a good hit. I think it's solid. I do like it. So how are we going to go about this exactly? And how do we move this deck over into a more, the EDH, action? So what I have here is I just have kind of a graveyard matter tokens deck. That's kind of how you would have to see this. There's also just like some, board wipes to say this that don't really affect Illuna. And, they just kind of delay the opponents until we're ready to mutate onto one of our tokens and get that full benefit. So we have just some nice options here, like Brothers Hoods and some nice sweepers here. Burn Down the House also can create tokens, or it can just be like that nice 5 damage spell that won't hit Illuna because it's a 6/6. So that's just another good option. It's just perfect for us. And then we just have some other interesting choices, that we'll kind of build our graveyard. And we definitely want to build our graveyard, because I feel like that's a good way of going about playing in these particular colors if you have a lot of instants or sorceries, just because you're going to want to have nice options for your Mizzet's Mastery, so to speak, where this thing is just going to be able to get more advantage. It's going to be able to get a more expensive spell than its own casting costs, and then you're going to get the advantage from it. And so that's kind of the point of that. We have for instance, our token generators, and I think we can just kind of look at the token generators so you can kind of see how we're going to make the tokens, because we do need these tokens, these non-human tokens, and they can't be considered permanents. The only permanents that we have in this whole deck are the Jin Gitaxis, Ulamog, and Omniscience, and one with a Multiverse. These are the only permanents that we play in the entire deck. The others are just instants or sorceries. So we do have to have a way to hit the board, and there are some spells that, will create tokens for us. So we can just go kind of over the list. This is a Forbidden Friendship. I mean, this actually will create a human soldier. We can't mutate onto that. So hopefully when we get to EDH, we can get some better options for creating tokens, and maybe y'all can help me along the way. I really like Glimpse the Impossible because it's going to be able to create us a little ramp and some selection, and we can also create tokens from this, so I really like that a lot. I think it's probably one of our better token generators. I have some really cool choices here, guys. Obviously, these are just very easy, right? Krenko's Command, they create the Goblin tokens, Malevolent Rumble, what a bomb. Once again, a little bit of ramp, a little bit of graveyard building. It's just right where we want to be. Rouse Reinforcements for the elemental creature tokens that you generate. And this one was such a cool choice. I was just going through my bulk, and I was like, hey, that's going to work. I think that's just going to work for this deck. Why this is so cool is it gets us a little bit of ramp, because we're not going to be playing mana dorks. We're just going to have to use our cards, our instants and sorceries for this. So it's going to help us get ahead on our treasures and create a token, which is really good. So a really easy team up you can imagine is just, for instance, going to a Malevolent Rumble, on your turn 2, for instance, and then you're going into your Swarming of Moria on turn 3. And then if you've hit all your land drops, you'll be able to basically sacrifice this token as some ramp and mutate onto your Amass Orcs. And once you've done that successfully, then you are going to be granted either an Ulamog, a Jin Gitaxis, a one with a Multiverse, or an Omniscience. And in that case, you're probably going to want the Omniscience because you're going to have a full grip on an early sequence, and you're just going to be able to go off. Simple as that. And the reasoning why you're going to be able to go off is that you're going to have a 6/6, and you're going to have cards like Return of the Wild Speaker, where you can just basically play this for 0 and draw 6 cards because Illuna is a 6/6. Or you're going to have a Rishkar's Expertise, for instance, right? which is a sorcery. And you're going to draw 6 cards and also play another 5-drop, from your hand. But everything's going to be free anyways with Omniscience. You have these cards like Overflowing Insight, which is just 7 cards. It's just... You have Seagate Restoration. These crazy cards. Season of Gathering. Yeah, they just love to see Illuna. They just going to draw you a ton of cards, and they have more modes too. So this one could be really nasty if you want to like destroy all the enchantments on the battlefield like at once, or artifacts. I mean, then you can just draw cards equal to the greatest power of creatures in control. So you can really keep that gasoline going. And we have our nice Treasure Cruise enablers. He's just going to get in your graveyard and just delve. Just going to like pay like 1 blue to draw 3 cards. It's if we don't have an Omniscience, say for instance we just got into our one with a Multiverse, and we're still just like getting value overload, but we're not getting all free spells, so we're going to have like some backup plans. So we have some just really nice spells and haymakers in general. A lot of them will create tokens like treasures, for instance, or they'll loot into the graveyard or do a little bit of both. You have some just nice card advantage cards like Momentous Fall. This will get like Illuna back in the graveyard and get us 6 cards so we can go again. So some really nice stuff here. And this is like the Brawl version. So is there any like major changes like that came to my mind immediately? I do think there's like probably a couple decent ones. This isn't like a kind of play pattern I'm kind of used to playing, but I did think it was, very powerful. And I know there are some land cards that I kind of even missed out on that do create tokens. I do have a Murex in here, so we do have some ways to like, for instance, create tokens through lands, which is really nice. And then also another sneaky one would be just like a Lair of Hydra. You could just pay 1 green to have this become a X can't be 0. So you'd have to pay 1 in green to like create this into a creature, and you can mutate over the lair. So that's kind of interesting. I suppose like this Mystic Sanctuary could just go for like, it's a cool card in general, but I think I just kind of rather have the options to like maybe create tokens on lands and such. And there is a green, I think it's called like, I'll have to look it up, but let's go and transfer this over to like kind of an EDH list. Let's just also kind of look at some sample, like maybe a sample hand in the meantime, just so you can kind of get the feel of the deck and kind of to see what's going on. I feel like this is just a really good hand. So we just playtest this one, just draw, and then we can just go ahead and like fetch something up here. You want to like kind of get into your reds because of indomitable creativity, and we'll go over that card before this is over. But we have a Thundering Falls here. We'll definitely want, we can probably just fetch up like a. I suppose you probably just want to start like this. You just want to go Thundering Falls first because of the mana drain. And then we just draw for our next turn. This could find our blue-red Shockland, which would be fine. And we could probably just go right into the command here. Make our Gobos. And Illuna needs double blue too and green. So we probably just go into this. Hopefully mana drain something. And then the rest is history, right? It's because mana drain just accelerates us by at least 2 mana. And then we would just go play land for turn. And we'd have an uncounterable one. And they would basically have to have like a bolt to stop this from mutating, which would be sad. But for instance, let's just example this. So we go into our Illuna now, and now we're just exiled until we hit a permanent. So these just all go into exile. So usually you can get up to like 40 hits before you hit a permanent, because there's really not that many permanents to hit, is there? It'll be kind of I mean, honestly, this is a great omniscience start. Okay, so we hit him 1 with Multiverse, which is just a bomb as well. So we will put that directly on the battlefield now. We can play with the top of our card revealed. We already played land for turn. It's a Kasul's Fury, so that could just stay on the top. But now we can play a card without paying its casting cost. You can go right into the Treasure Cruise and draw 3 here. Yep. And we could draw a bunch of cards. We could go into the big score and get ahead with some mana as well. Get some treasures on the board. I believe we would still, without paying its mana cost. I don't know how that works with big score. We'll have to look it up, because that's an interesting one. You might have to just discard the card as the additional cost. That kind of makes sense, like an alternative cost, I suppose, where you're just paying for 0, but you still have to discard, and that would be fine. I mean, we just toss a mountain in there, and that's fine. We're building our graveyard for later, and this would just make us some treasures, kind of get us ahead here. We can brainstorm and put something really nice on top, or just get something ready for us for next turn at instant speed. You can even play a free turn Timber Symbiosis. I don't think that would hit much, but like, say for instance on end step, our opponent's end step, we've brainstormed, and I mean, Lorien Revealed is kind of a nice gas up. All of these are just nice gas, and then you just have like counter spells available, so maybe just keep this, actually, I mean, you can even keep the lands, because you want to just like basically play the lands from the top of your deck too, and we could just like basically draw into this and then keep Lorien next on the top. Could be something like this, and then we could play the Lorien for free and just draw 3 cards here and have a complete gassed up hand. Seems pretty decent. Or yeah, I mean, that seems to be good. So you play that for free. Then we go into Escape. Compulsive Research. That's interesting. So it looks like these cards are kind of appropriate, where you're getting like a lot of selection, and you're just kind of like moving through and juicing up the graveyard too, which is really good for the Treasure Cruise and such. So I think it's kind of a nice one. This is definitely a nice hit. So I definitely am a fan. You can kind of restart things over too with the Kasul's Fury, which is nice. You can just basically sack Adora, and then create more tokens once again, kind of repeat the process, find another token enabler, and kind of restart the process. Or you can just try to get the job done with Ghidorah here. I mean, you got like basically these Escape to the Wilds things, like you probably are juicing up your graveyard too, for your Treasure Cruise. I mean, you're going to get a lot of selection here. There's some more token enablers. So yeah, this one's a nice one. So let's see here. Oops. I really don't know how much it will change, like going to the next format, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, it does get a little bit better though, of course. Oops. We want the new deck. Let's just call this Meme and Ain't Easy. Illuna! Cool. All right, visual grid. Yes, please. And I think what we want to do, I think we want to have a solve the equation to kind of get really interesting. I feel like that's probably even better than compulsive research or whatever the heck it is. I mean, we're already building the graveyard a lot. That was a pretty easy cut. Additionally, I think we want to have like our nature's lores over our glimpse the core and such. Nature's lore and 3 visits. Oops. All right, what we need to do is we need to find the land that makes token. There it is, the Colony Garden. It's beautiful. Is that the only option? Looks like there's... I think that's the one we want. Oops. I went back to my my other list. This one would probably actually like a colony garden, to be honest. Beautiful. So now we're at 101 here. So the just absolute gas lands, these like tokens on. It's just, that will make tokens too. It's just crazy. It's like such good value for us. Be a land or token generator. It's just crazy. This is fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not always easy to get 3 islands down in the 3 colors. Just not the easiest. And I do like World Soul's Rage, but I think I'm just going to be like safer and just play Kodama's Reach. We don't even have Kodama's Reach on Brawl. So I'm feeling pretty happy. I think I'm feeling like super happy about this. Okay, Indomitable Creativity. So, X is still mana. It's not, that X is not like the amount of things you're sacrificing. It is a casting cost. So if I'm sacrificing one of the tokens, this spell will cost 3 red, and then any other mana, an additional mana. So 4 total. And then I only have 2 creatures in the deck. So it's either going to find a Jin Jitaxis, or it's going to find an Ulamog. And if I have enough mana, like if I have say for instance, I have some counter magic available and I have 7 mana available, I can just sacrifice 2 tokens and then I will still have counter magic available, and I'm going to find a Jin and an Ulamog. It's completely busted. It's completely busted. And then we have some nice cards like Grape Shot, which is cool too. I feel like the Commit to Memory is kind of an interesting one, where you're casting so many spells. We definitely need a different printing so you can read the card. Because if we're going to build, if that graveyard is getting juiced up and we're casting a lot of spells, we can always just do this, right? We can just, play the backside, the Aftermath. And then each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draw 7 cards, and we have a fresh 7 to deal with. So I thought that was a really cool choice too, as well. And it's just also just a kind of a slower, it's just basically bounces back a spell to an opponent's library, second from the top. Spell or non-land permanent, so it's fine. Feyboon Trick, that one's the one that's going to create some nice tokens for us. There might be some more efficient ways. This one's kind of cool because it kind of slows down the opponent too. They have something nasty. Puts a stun counter on something, right? Or just tapping, just taps. Okay, very well. And yeah, I mean, some of the choices in here are really cool. I mean, this one's a nice one. This is just a really high cost like counter spell that gives you some more options. So it's always just kind of a nice one. I just don't mind it at all. But yeah, we definitely kind of went into the graveyard action. Definitely have some nice choices here. Like Magma Outpost is like a really nice spell to like cast for free, basically. Some card advantage there. Some nice counter spells here. We did play Memory Lapse. I wonder if we maybe get into like an Arcane Denial or something. Maybe that something will give us a little bit of cards and be like more of a hard counter. I don't mind that. And it's still good with our colors. We're still going to play Counterspell. We're still going to play Mana Drain. We have a Jawari. I think I like the Counterspell suite. It kind of looks nice. 3 steps is nice. I believe like for the 3 steps ahead, like Omniscience isn't going to really say, hey, like you can do all these at once. You still have to, those are like separate casting costs. Like alternative casting costs that you'll have to pay into, right? I do think Omniscience is May too. Yeah, it's a May clause. You may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana costs. So we can still play like 3 steps and stuff by just playing their regular mana costs, which is fine. I mean, God, I'm just kind of like, some of the cards in my hand I'm thinking of is like Manamorphose, and maybe we need to like maybe sign some more token generators. Maybe the ones that might be a little bit better. For instance, these are fine. These like 2 mana ones. And I mean, this one is a little scuffed because it creates a human soldier token. So let's see if I can find some spells that will increase our token generator spells that make tokens. Dragon Fodder. That's perfect. Create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. That's perfect. Dragon Fodder. Anything else? Awakening Zone. That's a permanent. Awesome. Awesome. Dragon Fodder. All right, so there is one more thing I did want to talk about in this particular deck. And it's like kind of your ramp suite. And I believe it's just basically really straightforward. Basically, it's just like your cultivates and nature lores, plus some sprinkling in of like some treasure production. So, for instance, and I think the treasures are good too because you have like the cards like Indomitable Creativity. So, that's beautiful. So we can sacrifice the artifacts, the treasures, or tokens, right, that are on the battlefield. It's like basically you could curve into an indomitable creativity faster than your Illuna, which would grant you your Ulamog or your Jin-Kataxis faster. So let's just check these out here. See some. So we have Strike It Rich, which is nice. We do have Swarming Amoria, which is good. Additionally, have like your big scores here. Magma Opus can also just be, dumped in the yard pretty early, and that will create you a treasure, kind of accelerate you, and it'll just be in your graveyard for later. Prismari Command will build a yard. It will create you a treasure. Unexpected Windfall, similarly. Will create treasures as well. And then there's land. Plenty of lands. Beautiful lands. 51 lands total. 11 of those is which are multi-face land cards. Oh, the lands, baby. Valakut is a nice one too, because it just keeps your gas going, you know, especially when you're like free casting. You're just like, hey, let me get some more action, you know, and that could be a land if you want it to be. Yeah, yep, I dig it, guys. Yeah, this is a cool one. I did like the season. I think that's like one of my card of the year for last year. Cards of the year for sure. It's beautiful. So many options there. All right, let's so fun. It doesn't look like a 100 card deck, and that's what's really beautiful about it, is that it's really like efficient. And you may go off with an indomitable creativity, and maybe your Jin gets bounced back, like I said, but then you're coming back next turn with Illuna, and then you're busting out your Ulamog. So it's just like you're just living it up, guys. You're just living it up here. So yeah, let me know what you think about the deck. If you have any kind of other things that you want to see, maybe with this deck that you like to see, let me know. I mean, like I said, you're basically really, you need double blue for mana drain, which is kind of always something you want to think of. But you also do have to get green mana too for the mutate. So actually, you don't need green mana. Wow, you just need red, blue, blue. Well, that's kind of interesting. But you might need green in general, right? So I think you're probably just finding like maybe a green-red in this particular instance and just surveilling. Yeah, that will kind of fix up your mana too. Another one of these boys. You can go into your dragon fodder. You can play even one of your basics right there if you want. Kind of really up to you. Yeah, it was a little bit of a slower one. So you have the galvanic iteration, which is kind of a nice choice, I think. How does galvanic work with grape shot? So many questions I have. It just seems like there's never-ending questions. But I'm pretty sure it would just copy the instant you just get another storm payoff, maybe. Harrow. So that's like our accelerant. That's nice, guys. A little Harrow action there. That's pretty nice for us. Builds our graveyard too. We love it. Alright, so we just imagine that we go into our Harrow and we're living our best life with all our mana here, and we're mutating, and now let's see what happens. I do have a cavern too, I believe. 2, 3, 4. We're just going to get through this until we hit a permanent, see what we get. It's one with a multiverse. That one's super sick. Yeah, it goes into a Return of the Wild Speaker. You just bust your hand out. You just draw like fresh 6. It's beautiful. We have to change the picture to the dragon sword. Oh. All right, everybody say hi, say bye to Ghidorah, and I hope you're all doing well. We're getting a subscriber every week, so if we keep this up, in 3 years, we'll have 1,000 subscribers. If you like my content and you watch and haven't subscribed, hit that like button and subscribe button. It's free. It's free for you. I appreciate you all. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Bye-bye.